I really apologize. I know I was supposed to be here by 2:30 if this all worked out, but it didn't quite work out.
I think we had to be up for 3. This is
good.
Ed, our Canvas director.
Hi, how are you?
And he's going to say a few words about what we've been doing here in Oregon.
All right. Sounds great.
Well, Governor, thanks for coming to the League of Conservation Voters in Oregon.
All I do is I can take off my coat.
Be comfy, we do.
Well, I won't make any big long speeches. First of all, thank you for doing this. Second of all, I think that if Kerry wins Oregon, he's probably going to win the whole thing. So this is a good bellwether state. And thirdly, what are you hearing about Nader?
1.5% here in Oregon.
Is that right?
If he gets on the ballot.
Yeah. Which he's trying to do with the help of the anti-gay right-wing Oregon Family Council. Right? Well, thanks for what you guys are doing.
Hey,
I mean,
thank
really,
you.
You know, it's just great to have a whole bunch of people who are empowered to take this country back.
Right.
Well, you will be. If you know, it's really worth it doing all the grassroots stuff. Is Bush on television here? Yep. Are you doing ads?
Yeah.
Tons.
Negative ads?
Yep, the Swift Boat veterans.
That's in Oregon?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, we don't get to see them like right when they come out because we're always out canvassing, and so we
Right.
hear about them from people at the door, and then we have to like retroactively respond to them. So it's hard.
Well, the first one is totally untrue, as it turns out. And the second one is that I did. The boss. The first one is totally untrue, and the second is the president broke the law when he did it, because the law says that you're not allowed to have discussions between the campaign and the group that's paying for the ad. And obviously, since one of the people who starred in the ad was on the campaign, and the other one was a lawyer who was giving him advice,
Right.
you know, what I usually say about, I don't know how tough you want to be with swing voters, but what I usually say, since my role is to crank up the base, is that, you know, the president broke the law, and this reminds me a lot of Richard Nixon, and I hope we won't have to wait till after the election to have a trial.
Yeah.
But it is true that the ads are, you know, false. And you know, there's been a series in the Washington Post and the New York Times going through all the false ads. So we'll see what comes out of that.
I mean, people say it could be just like it did last time, and we're still squirreling around with voting machines down there.
Voting machines are a disaster.
Mm.
We actually have a guy running against the woman who invented the butterfly ballot. Because we have all these local, we have 1,000 local candidates running around the country, including 3 registrars of elections in Florida. And one of them's in, actually there was a big article about her in the New York Times, Teresa Lepore. You know, this incredible thing about Oregon, which I didn't realize until I just got back from there, Florida and Texas is where I spent my last weekend. And I discovered that it's not just that Jeb Bush is trying to steal the election, which he is. It's that the level of competence among the Florida election officials, nonpartisan, is just so low. It's not that it's just all Republican crooks. That's not necessarily true. It's that they're just totally incompetent. It's unbelievable. How about my old friend Mike Levitt, who said that the reason that there were fish advisories all over the country now instead of just in the Northeast is they were doing more testing.
Yeah.
Mike's a nice guy, but he never did have anything to approach them with the backbone. You want to work for the Bush administration, you just have to be a good order taker.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, Carl.
Yeah.
Kerry is genuinely a really good environmentalist, and always has been. So,
You've been talking a lot about the environmentalism.
I have a column coming out about the environment, which is kind of fun. It probably won't come out for a couple of weeks, but I do a weekly column, which goes into a lot of small newspapers around the country. So I expect to.
What do you touch on?
Can we have a little louder for those of us in the back?
Sure. What do I write on in the column?
In
We'll
your
send you a
column,
copy
in
of
the
it, so
environment.
we'll get you a chance to read. What I do is I do what I did in the campaign. I try to connect the environment to the major issues that people are really worried about, which are jobs and national security. And you do it through renewable energy. And we send money to the Middle East. Some of it's recycled to teach people to hate Americans, Christians, Jews, moderate Muslims. And then for every $1 billion that you keep in the United States, there's 15,000 to 20,000 new jobs. which I cattily point out would almost make up for the number of manufacturing jobs we've lost since George Bush has been president. But I like to talk about the environment to voters in ways that affect them in terms of national security. The reason I think that what you're doing is so good is because the environment's a local issue. You can talk to people about global warming, and they, smart people get that that's a bad thing, but a lot of people just, what about my job? What about my kid is in Iraq? That's what they really worry about. So if you can connect the environment to something they live with every day, it's a way of helping them to connect with the kind of long-term thinking that people sometimes don't do, even though they should.
Change of leadership argument. We're in this messy situation, and it's bad to change.
That's
halfway
exactly
through.
why you need to change leadership, because it's not going to get any better. This president will continually get worse. The Iraq situation's gotten much worse since we went in there than it was before. It's really astonishing how bad it is now and how many Iraqis are dying. So I think you can make the case that, look, 6% of the people in the world like us now. We can do better than that. I believe that makes the case for a change. Things are so bad that they're only getting worse under this president, which is almost certainly true. And the other thing I'd point out is who has allowed North Korea and Iran to become nuclear powers. This tough-talking president went after a guy who turned out to be a wimp and didn't have any weapons, instead of doing the tough stuff, which is to deal with North Korea and Iran. I would argue this president has made us much, much weaker internationally than any president in recent memory, because he deliberately chose a target he knew he could push away instead of doing the really tough stuff that does threaten the security of the United States.
Working for the LCV is because of a precedent that you set with Dean for America and everything. And my question being, once we do get Kerry in office, there's going to be a propensity for a lot of people that we're recruiting and everything to kind of just put down their guard, stop looking into progressive causes. How can groups like LCV and Democracy for America keep that precedent of supporting progressive causes on a local level? How can we really do that effectively? How is
What I tell people with a big smile on my face, but it's absolutely true, is I give everybody a month off after the election and we're going back to work. If Bush should win, of course we know what we have to do, but if he loses, we have a whole. I don't want all these groups like ACT and all that to go away, and I don't want you all people to go away. Because this is, the right wing took 20 years to put us in this mess. We're not going to get out of it in one election. So what I'm hoping is that those of you, I assume since you're signed up with LCV, environment is a very high priority for you, there'll be some initiatives in the Kerry administration that we need to go out and sell to the American public. Because all those guys inside the Beltway will be trying to kill it, all those fat cat lobbyists. We're going to have to be out there getting letters to the editor, letters to the administration, and building a groundswell for the kinds of reforms that we need. And one thing that Deb and I have talked about a little bit, but we need to spend a lot more time talking about, is that we need everybody to be on the same page. We don't want to go back to, Sierra Club's trying to do one thing, Friends of the Earth or something else, LCV is something else. We ought to pick 2 or 3, or maybe even one initiative that we want to get and focus on that intensely and get it passed. I think renewables, I happen to believe renewables have the biggest effect on both the economy and the environment, and ordinary people can understand those, but whatever it may be. Hoping Kerry will win, in which case I don't have to think about running again for 8 years. I have no idea. I have not the most remote idea.
We'll be working for your campaign.
Well, thank you. That's a long time to go. But I really want John to win. I think, John will be a good president. I really think he will be. But we got to get him there first.